When the riots began and the leadership took the position that you couldn't go to church because of the danger of the magic virus, but you could go to the riots and protest, my team and I started to look at the riots. And so we made, if you come into Solari, there's a database called COVID-19, and I think it's COVID-19 Riots and Fed. So the first thing we did is we looked at the state, and we looked at the cities and whether the governor was Democrat or Republican, and then what the COVID cases and deaths were. And then we said, okay, we're going to check a box called riots, where riots have been. So we started to look at the patterns of the riots vis-a-vis the political machine control and sort of the COVID magic virus op. And there was something wrong when I was looking at the data, and I could feel, I'm a very intuitive person. I was saying, there's something here. So I said to the wonderful teammate who was building this, I said, do me a favor. I want you to put a box called the Federal Reserve. And I want you to check the box. There are 12 banks, 1 headquarters, and then the branches for a total of 37 locations. I want you to check the box wherever, in any city where we have a branch or a bank or the headquarters, I want a check. And what we discovered is 34 of the 37 bank locations had riots. And I said, well, wait a minute, that's a pattern. There's something here. Let's drill down. So we started with Minneapolis, and we said, let's take the data of all the buildings that were harmed or burnt, or businesses, and we'll map it. We'll do a GIS software, and we'll map where these businesses were and how close they were to the Federal Reserve Bank. And so the first one we did, there's a street going across Minneapolis called Lake. And we mapped them. And one of the things we did when we mapped them was we drew pictures of where the opportunity zones were. Do you know what an opportunity zone is? An opportunity zone is a tax shelter mechanism created in 2018 to help the tech billionaires, as they sold their stock, avoid capital gains. So you can, if you're Jeff Bezos, who sold $10 billion of stock this year, if you were to roll over your proceeds into opportunity zone investments and handle it in a certain way, you could avoid all capital gains tax. So this is fantastically profitable. Now, if you look at the riots, when I first saw how all the buildings and businesses destroyed along Lake Street were right at the bottom of the opportunity, I started to laugh, and I said, I was Assistant Secretary of Housing. That's not a riot pattern. That's a real estate acquisition plan.
So what are you saying? It's to cheapen the prices in the city?
So I have a thriving series of small businesses, a lot owned by African American and Hispanics along a particular boulevard in the opportunity zone. If first I declare the business as non-essential and shut them down, right? Magic virus. So first I declare them non-essential, so now they're in real trouble, right? Because they can't do their business. And then I have riots and burn and damage them, right? If I was really clever, I'd pull their insurance right before I did it. I don't know what the case was, but we'll see. So now their business is shut down. They're now hung on their debt, right? Whether their mortgage or their credit card. But even worse, now their building has been damaged. And of course, insurance doesn't cover all the repairs and fixing, right? So needless to say, it's going to be a lot easier and cheaper for me to go in and buy up all those buildings, right? Voila. It's called disaster capitalism. So we then mapped, we did Minneapolis, then we mapped Kenosha, then Portland, and now we're doing a place in Ohio. And the patterns we're seeing, if you look at the clusters of where the damage is, just speaking as Assistant Secretary of Housing, those are, in my opinion, real estate acquisition plans completely, especially when they come on top of declaring all those small businesses non-essential and shutting them down or restricting them. I'm sure you got a lot of restaurants in there.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you look at San Francisco, 49% of the businesses in San Francisco are expected to be out of business by the end of the year. Do you know how much real estate you're going to be able to pick up cheap on this? It's phenomenal. Now, when you realize that if they sell their tech stocks high, they can pick it up really cheap, what's important to understand is this makes the economics of building the smart grid out in the Fed cities. Remember, I said 34 of 37 cities have a Fed bank or branch. So this makes building out the smart grid around the Fed banks much cheaper, which I'm assuming you want to do if you're going to come out with a crypto system.
Okay.